The SEAL commander said. No one can make that shot. Then she shot 3 enemy generals in the head. 24-year-old Staff Sergeant Nicole Hayes crouched behind the rocky outcropping, adjusting the scope on her Barrett M82 sniper rifle for the 100th time. Her jet black hair was pulled back in a tight bun beneath her ghillie suit hood, and her emerald green eyes remained fixed on the target area 200 wide away through the high-powered optics. To the SEAL team positioned around her, she looked like just another Army sniper providing overwatch support. What they didn't know was that Staff Sergeant Nicole Hayes was about to attempt the most impossible shot in modern military history. But Staff Sergeant Nicole Hayes was far from ordinary. For 5 years she had been the Army's most closely guarded secret, a sniper whose accuracy defied physics and whose kill record was classified at levels that didn't officially exist. Her call sign Shadow had been earned after she eliminated 23 high-value targets in a single deployment without ever being detected. Marine Scout snipers called her legend. Army Rangers spoke of her in whispers, and even Delta Force operators showed respect when her name came up. But today she was working with Navy SEALs who had no idea they were in the presence of the military's most lethal precision shooter. Nicole's background was as unique as her shooting ability. Born to a family of engineers in Boston, she had inherited an almost supernatural understanding of mathematics and physics. Her father, Dr. William Hayes, was a ballistics engineer who worked on advanced weapon systems, while her mother, Professor Catherine Hayes, taught applied physics at MIT. Nicole had grown up calculating trajectories and understanding the complex mathematics that govern projectile motion. This morning's mission should have been straightforward reconnaissance. Intelligence had identified a high-level meeting of enemy commanders taking place in a fortified compound deep in hostile territory. The mission parameters were simple. Observe and report. The target building sat on a ridge nearly 200 wide from the closest concealed position, well beyond the effective range of standard sniper engagement. No shots were to be taken. This was strictly a surveillance operation to gather intelligence on enemy leadership structure. Commander Blake Reaper Thompson, the SEAL team leader, had been skeptical about including an Army sniper in their reconnaissance mission from the beginning. Thompson was a 16-year veteran with 3 Bronze Stars and a reputation for preferring to work exclusively with SEAL personnel. SEALs had their own snipers, their own methods, and their own standards. Bringing in outside personnel always complicated operational security and team dynamics, but orders from Admiral James Mitchell himself had been explicit. Staff Sergeant Hayes was to accompany the mission as the primary long-range observation specialist. Her personnel file, what little Thompson had been allowed to see, showed standard Army sniper qualifications and routine deployments. Nothing that explained why a Navy admiral would personally assign an Army sergeant to a classified SEAL reconnaissance operation. Hayes, Commander Thompson called out, keeping his voice low as he moved to her position. What's your assessment of the target area? Nicole continued studying the compound through her scope, noting defensive positions, guard rotations, and structural weaknesses with the methodical precision of someone who had done this hundreds of times before. 3 primary buildings. Main structure appears to be the meeting location. Heavy security presence. Approximately 22 hostiles visible on perimeter patrol patterns. Any sign of the high-value targets were supposed to identify. Negative on visual confirmation of specific individuals, but thermal imaging suggests multiple heat signatures concentrated in the primary building's upper floor. Meeting is definitely in progress. Estimate 12 to 15 personnel inside. Commander Thompson nodded and moved to coordinate with his team's forward observer. The SEAL unit consisted of 8 operators, all veterans of multiple combat deployments in Iraq, Afghanistan, and classified operations in other theaters. They had been observing the compound for 3 hours, documenting personnel movements, communication patterns, and security protocols. Thompson's expression shifted immediately from routine surveillance mode to high-stakes tactical assessment. 3 enemy generals represented targets of enormous strategic value. Their simultaneous elimination could enemy command structure, disrupt coordination between multiple terrorist cells, and potentially end organized resistance throughout the entire region. What's JSO's directive? Thompson asked, knowing that the answer would fundamentally change their mission parameters. They're requesting immediate assessment of elimination possibilities. If we can take them out simultaneously, we have full authorization to proceed. Priority Alpha clearance, sir. Thompson looked through his high-powered binoculars at the distant compound, calculating distances and angles with the tactical expertise of 16 years in special operations. 200 wide was far beyond the effective range of any weapon system in their standard loadout. Even the most advanced sniper rifles had maximum effective ranges of 1,500 to 1,800 under perfect conditions. At 200 environmental factors like wind patterns, humidity variations, and bullet drop made accurate shooting virtually impossible by conventional military standards. Nicole continued observing through her scope, but she was also listening carefully to the SEAL team's tactical discussion. Through her advanced optics and laser range-finding equipment, she had a crystal-clear view of the target building. More importantly, she could see 3 men in distinctive enemy general uniforms, standing near large windows on the building's upper floor, engaged in animated discussion over what appeared to be tactical maps. "Sir, negative on close approach," Thompson said into his radio. "Range is prohibitive for effective engagement. We'd need to move at least 800 yd closer, which would compromise our concealment and almost certainly trigger their perimeter security response." Nicole made calculations in her head that the SEAL team couldn't see. Wind speed at ground level was 12 mt from the northwest, but her meteorological training told her that wind patterns at altitude would be different. Air density was lower than standard due to their elevation. Temperature was 82°F with 31% humidity, conditions that would affect bullet trajectory in specific calculable ways. "Commander Thompson," Nicole said quietly, her voice carrying an undertone of absolute confidence, "I have visual confirmation on 3 high-value targets. Enemy generals upper floor northwest-facing windows, range 247 yards. Thompson crawled over to her position and looked through his own spotting scope, squinting to make out the distant figures. "I see them. Christ, they're right there in the open, but they might as well be on another planet. No conventional weapon system can reach them from this range." Nicole made a decision that would define not only her military career, but potentially change the strategic balance of the entire conflict. "Sir, I can eliminate all 3 targets." Commander Thompson looked at her with a mixture of surprise, skepticism, and the kind of professional assessment that comes from 16 years of evaluating impossible tactical situations. "Hey, that's over to 200 yd. The world record for confirmed sniper kill is 2475 yards. And that was achieved under perfect conditions with multiple ranging shots in ideal weather. You're talking about 3 separate precision shots at extreme range against human-sized targets. I understand the distance and the tactical requirements, sir." Thompson's experience told him this was fantasy, but something in Nicole's voice, a quiet certainty that he had only heard from the most elite operators, made him pause. "Do you understand the physics involved? At that range, you're dealing with bullet drop of over 400 in, wind drift that could throw your shots off by multiple feet, atmospheric pressure variations, and environmental factors that change by the second. My best sniper, a guy who's been shooting professionally for 14 years, wouldn't attempt that shot." Nicole looked through her scope again, her mind automatically calculating factors that standard military doctrine didn't even consider. Coriolis effect from Earth's rotation, gyroscopic drift from bullet spin, temperature gradients at different altitudes, barometric pressure variations that would affect air density along the bullet's flight path. "Sir, with respect, your sniper is using conventional techniques for conventional ranges," Nicole said calmly. "This requires unconventional methods." Thompson stared at her for a long moment. In his 16 years with the SEALs, he had worked with some of the world's most elite shooters. Marine Corps scouts, snipers, Army Special Forces marksmen, even CIA paramilitary specialists. None of them would have claimed they could make 3 consecutive precision shots at 200 wide against human targets. "Hayes, that's not confidence. That's mathematical impossibility. The probability calculations for hitting a human-sized target at that range even once approach 0. Nicole set down her scope and looked directly at the SEAL commander with the steady gaze of someone who had done the impossible so many times it had become routine. "Sir, I need to show you something." She reached into her tactical kit and pulled out a weatherproof notebook filled with handwritten calculations, diagrams, and shooting data that looked more like advanced physics research than standard military documentation. Page after page of ballistic mathematics, environmental compensation formulas, and precision shooting data that incorporated variables most snipers had never considered. "This documents every precision shot I've taken over 1,000 Hayes. If you miss even one shot, we compromise the entire mission. They'll know exactly where we are. Security will be tripled throughout the region and we'll lose any future intelligence opportunities in this area." "Understood completely, sir. And if you're captured during extraction, this mission never existed. No backup cavalry, no official recognition, no government acknowledgement." "Copy that, sir." Thompson made a decision that went against every tactical manual, 16 years of spear experience and basic common sense about the limitations of small arms effectiveness. "Take the shots." Nicole immediately began her pre-engagement routine, a precisely choreographed ritual she had perfected over hundreds of extreme-range eliminations. Environmental assessment came first. Wind speed was 12 mph from the northwest at ground level, but her training in meteorology told her that wind patterns would be significantly different at the 100th altitude differential between her position and the target. Air temperature was 82 °F, humidity 31%, atmospheric pressure 2991, and of mercury slightly higher than sea level standard, which would affect bullet trajectory in measurable ways. She made microscopic adjustments to her scope's elevation and windage turrets, incorporating calculations that accounted for the Coriolis effect at extreme range. At 2,000+ yards, the Earth's rotation would actually influence bullet flight path by several inches, a factor that most snipers never needed to consider. Through her scope, Nicole could see all three targets with crystal clarity. General Rashida Mansouri, the enemy's strategic operations commander and architect of multiple terrorist attacks against coalition forces. General Omar Khalil, head of logistics and supply operations, whose elimination would enemy material support. General Faisal al-Zurani, the intelligence chief, whose death would blind enemy communication networks and coordination capabilities. All three men were standing near the windows, engaged in animated discussion over what appeared to be battle plans spread across a large table. They had no concept that 247 wide away, one of the world's most lethal precision shooters, was calculating their elimination with mathematical certainty. Nicole's breathing slowed to the controlled rhythm she had mastered through thousands of hours of advanced training. Her heart rate dropped to the minimal level that eliminated even microscopic movements from affecting her aim. This was the physiological state that only the most elite shooters ever achieved, a condition where physics, instinct, and training merged into something approaching supernatural accuracy. The SEAL team watched in fascination and disbelief as Nicole made final micro-adjustments to her rifle system. Commander Thompson was tracking the targets through his spotting scope, while Chief Williams maintained communication with JAW Command. The other operators maintained security perimeters and monitored for enemy patrol activity. Range 247 ADs, Nicole whispered into her tactical radio. 3 high-value targets, northwest windows, upper floor, atmospheric conditions optimal, engaging in 15 seconds. Nicole aligned her crosshairs on the first target, General al-Mansouri, standing closest to the leftmost window. She calculated the precise holdover required for bullet drop at that extreme range, compensated for wind drift based on her meteorological assessment, and adjusted for the slight upward angle of the shot. Her finger found the trigger with the gentle, consistent pressure that separated amateur shooters from lethal professionals. The Barrett's trigger had a clean, crisp break that she had tested thousands of times. Nicole exhaled exactly half her breath and held it, reaching the moment of perfect physiological stillness that made impossible shots achievable. The rifle fired with tremendous force, the .050 caliber muzzle blast, creating a signature that would be heard for miles. The massive bullet left the muzzle at 2.9 pers, beginning a 2.44 second on journey that would cover 247 wide while dropping over 420 in and drifting 19 in due to calculated wind conditions and Coriolis effect. Through her scope, Nicole tracked the bullet's impact with professional detachment and immediately shifted to acquire the second target. General Khalil had instinctively turned toward the sound of his colleague's body hitting the floor, presenting a perfect profile for precision shooting. Nicole's second shot fired before the other generals could fully process what was happening to them. The bullet struck General Khalil in the head with surgical precision, and Nicole was already acquiring her third and most challenging target. General al-Zurani was beginning to move toward cover, realizing that they were under sniper attack, but he was still partially visible through the window frame. Nicole's third shot was the most technically difficult, a moving target at extreme range requiring predictive shooting that combined mathematics, physics, and intuition. She led the target by exactly the calculated amount, compensating for his movement speed, direction, and the bullet's flight time. The shot found its mark with deadly precision. 3 shots, 3 confirmed kills. Total elapsed time 12.3 seconds. Commander Thompson watched through his spotting scope in complete stunned silence. All 3 enemy generals were down. Confirmed kills at a range that violated everything he understood about the limitations of small arms effectiveness and human shooting capability. Unfucking believable, whispered Chief Williams, his voice filled with awe. She actually did it 3 for 3. Nicole was already breaking down her shooting position with the efficient movements of someone who had done this many times before. Enemy security forces would respond within minutes, and their position would be completely compromised. Confirmed elimination of all 3 high-value targets, Nicole reported calmly into her radio. Recommend immediate tactical withdrawal to Extraction Point Alpha. Commander Thompson was still processing what he had just witnessed. In his 16 years of special operations, he had never seen shooting that defied the basic laws of physics and probability theory. Hayes, how the hell did you make those shots? Nicole smiled as she secured a rifle in its tactical case. Physics, sir. Applied mathematics and a lot of practice. The SEAL team began their extraction route, moving quickly through terrain that would mask their withdrawal from the target area. Behind them, the enemy compound was erupting in chaos as security forces discovered the bodies of their 3 most senior commanders. As they moved through the rocky hills toward their extraction point, Commander Thompson caught up with Nicole during a brief tactical halt. Hayes, I need to know who you really are. That shooting was impossible, and you made it look routine. Nicole looked at the SEAL commander with the quiet confidence of someone who had just changed the course of a war. Sir, officially I'm Staff Sergeant Nicole Hayes, Army Sniper, providing reconnaissance support. And unofficially I'm the reason enemy commanders don't sleep well at night. Thompson nodded slowly. What's your actual classification level? Above your clearance, sir. With respect. Thompson smiled despite himself. Fair enough. But I want you to know what you did today was the most incredible shooting I've ever witnessed. Thank you, sir. One more question. What's your actual longest confirmed kill? Nicole considered the question carefully. Sir, that information is classified, but let's just say that today wasn't my personal record. 3 months later, intelligence reports confirmed that the elimination of the 3 enemy generals had completely collapsed organized resistance in the region. Without their strategic leadership, enemy forces had fragmented into ineffective local groups that posed no significant threat to coalition operations. Staff Sergeant Nicole Hayes received no official recognition for her achievement. Her personnel file still listed her as a routine Army sniper with standard qualifications, but in the classified archives of Special Operations Command, her 3 shots were recorded as the most strategically significant sniper engagement in modern military history. Commander Thompson was promoted to lieutenant commander and assigned to lead SEAL team development programs. He never forgot the day he watched an impossible shot become routine, and he made sure that future SEAL snipers trained for engagements beyond the theoretical limits of their weapons. Nicole continued her classified assignments, taking shots that officially never happened against targets whose elimination changed the balance of conflicts around the world. Her call sign Shadow became legend among those with clearance to know the truth. Years later, when military historians studied the turning points of the conflict, they identified the collapse of enemy command structure as the decisive moment. 3 deaths, 3 bullets, 3 impossible shots that had ended a war. But the official record would always show that no shots were fired that day. It was, after all, strictly a reconnaissance mission. The SEAL commander had said no one could make that shot. Nicole Hayes had proven that some people aren't no one. They're the reason impossible becomes inevitable. And sometimes that's exactly what changes the world. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, you can subscribe to see more incredible stories like this.